Hey guys, Action Jackson here. I've been given something pretty cool to show you. I've got a card reveal from Valve. Thank you very much to them for hooking me up. This is going to be super cool. And it's actually a card that I run, admittedly in one of the deck lists that I talked about in our previous couple of videos. So I'm excited to bring it to you. I'm not going to make you wait for it. I'm just going to put it up on screen now. We'll talk about it. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the impact of it in both Constructed and Limited. I'm not going to give it a rating. I'm saving that kind of content until the NDA lifts and I can look at everything holistically. But for now, let's have a look at my card reveal, Forward Charge. Alright, so Forward Charge is a 3-mana black card, and it is a spell. It reads, give allies +2 siege this round. Allies change their combat target to the unit or tower across from them. This card is interesting for a few reasons. It's obviously quite strong with a board full of units. Like, you're going to get minimal value out of it if you've only got one or two things, at least when it comes to the front half of the card, right? When it comes to the siege, this essentially gives you 2 times the number of units that are blocked by the opponent, which is a lot of damage. Like, if you have 5 units blocked by an opponent, this is 10 damage. That's a quarter of the enemy's tower health. So in an aggro deck, or even, maybe in a mid-range deck that runs black, this can be a great finisher when you've chipped away at their tower and they don't have a lot of health left. What is more interesting from the aggro perspective, though, is actually that this is in black and changes your combat target to a tower, if that's what's across from them. You might remember in my first deck building video that I discussed the fact that aggro and artifact is very difficult to play properly, at least in part because even though there's certain things you can do to pressure your opponent very aggressively in the early game, because of the variance of creep spawns, there's going to be scenarios where maybe I Relentless Pursuit my Sorla Khan to the right lane, I crack in for 20 on turn 1, but then on turn 2 the creeps spawn in a weird way, and Sorla just paths into it, right? This card mitigates against that, and it's very, very cheap. So in an aggressive deck, this actually functions less as a finisher and more as a redundant way of getting in damage early into the game when you are most freely able to. Because chances are on like turn 4 or 5, even if you can play this in order to have your guys go tower or get the siege through, that's when you start getting to the point where annihilations come down, you're going to have to deal with board wipes. So this actually guarantees you get the damage in earlier, and then things like your trebuchets are the things that close out your games in a lot of situations in aggro. Now that being said, as I alluded to earlier, I typically consider this card to be kind of a 1, maybe 2 of in most aggressive lists. And the reason for that is because it fights pretty toughly against a lot of the other cards that you want to run in the sort of middling mana costs of aggro decks, right? Like, you need to have things like Hipfire, you need to have a lot of ways to interact with your opponent's board and just deal damage. And this, it is an important card, but maybe running too many of them could mean that you can't do something proactive to the board, and so you get damage in this turn, but it's just tip damage, and it doesn't persist. So it's a very interesting card and constructed for all these reasons. When it comes to Limited, I have to admit I am less of a Limited expert, but I have had this card used against me in Limited to pretty devastating effect. Like, it was a 1 of in my opponent's deck, I wasn't really playing too much around it, and then because the nature of Limited is that your boards get quite wide and dirtily, because there's far less removal, right? This actually, the front half of this card is like pretty relevant in Limited. It does get crushed by things like Vesture of the Tyrant, because this is not piercing siege damage, it's just siege damage. But that's not a case that you have to worry about too much in Limited, even if maybe the metagame in Constructed means that, again, this card functions less as a finisher because a lot of control decks are running Vesture of the Tyrant. So yeah, it's a very interesting card. I'm really happy I got to do a reveal for you guys. I think this card is good. I think it's a 1 or 2 of in most constructed lists that would want an effect like this, and in Limited, it makes sense to pick up 1 or 2 also. So thank you for watching my card reveal. If you enjoyed this, please check out the Deck Tech Deck Building 101 video that I did sort of 2 videos back and 1 video back. They're kind of part of the same parcel, for more information about how to build an aggressive red-black list and think about maybe how this card could slot directly into it. And before I forget, the art on this card is awesome, and it's by an artist named Darek Zabrocki. So I'm going to put a link to his social media and website in the description if you want to check out more of his work. All right, catch you guys next time.